Hi everyone, this is Michelle Wedertz and I'm here for Hip Kit Club, and I am going to show you how I put together a two pocket page spread using the January kits from Hip Kit Club. So what I'm showing you here is how I've laid out my month. On the left side I have the end of July, and on the right side I have the beginning of August. Most of my albums are divided like this. I like to start the new month off as it looking something different, like the next chapter in the book. And I usually do that by using a smaller size page protector, and that way you can see what's kind of peeking behind. So I have my traditional layout there that's going under that smaller page protector. That way I can pull the colors from that layout that's peeking out and put them across the other two pages that you can see there. So right now the first task, always after I get my pictures into my album where I want them, is I am going to pull together the supplies that I want to use. So of course I've got the Hip Kit exclusive journaling cards, and I'm going to highlight both that stamp and those set of pockets that came in the kit. Now I'm pulling out things that I may or may not use. I've got the small alphas from Pink Fresh. I've got some frames. I really like a couple of these frames in there caught my eye, as well as the die cuts. Die cuts are always a staple for me when it comes to creating any kind of layout. Here's a Celebrate. I actually cut this out thinking I was going to put it on another layout, and it didn't fit, so I just went ahead and pulled that out. I have also pulled out a couple sheets of pattern paper that I used on that traditional layout, just in case I want to bring those colors, those papers and patterns into my pocket pages. So now that I've shown you a look at the supplies that I pulled out from the kits, I'm going to go ahead and start laying out some cards. When I am looking for cards, I'm looking, number one, for journaling space. I am also looking for simple cards that can kind of just be standalone on themselves. I usually like to include at least one of those. Sometimes they have a nice pattern on them. Sometimes they have a sentiment. But again, number one is I'm looking for a journaling space. Now this card that I'm using here was actually on the other side. It says January. It's a beautiful card, but I'm going to use this kit for the summer. So to recycle that card, as opposed to just saving it for later, which sometimes I don't, most of the time I don't use stuff like that if I don't always remember everything that I have. So I'm just going to flip it over, and I'm going to create a 6x4 card on my own using the two pieces of pattern paper that I brought out. Now, when trying to create my own cards, I always try to consider the rule of 2/3. That 4x6 card, I kind of eyeballed it and filled it 2/3 of the way with pattern paper. And then the remaining 1/3 white space, that is where I'm going to go ahead and put my journaling. And that's the reason why I didn't glue down my pattern paper yet onto that card, because I am going to run it through the typewriter. And if I were to glue those on there, it would probably be too thick for my older typewriter. I only have an older one, so I don't know if a newer typewriter, if they can handle a thicker paper, but mine can't. So I always glue stuff down after I've gotten my journaling in. So here I am. I'm looking for some cards. Trying to keep in mind the color scheme from the page in the back, as well as the main cards that I've already picked out. Now, I really like the Life is Perfect card on the bottom that I've got there. I like that's a really great orangey red that you'll find throughout the kit. But I didn't go with it because it seemed too white for me, so too much white space. So I went with a nice blue pattern card, and I'm going to actually leave that clear or blank. So right here, we included in the kit were some pockets, and what I did is picked out one that I'm going to tuck a photo in. And I showed you with the washi tape that I did end up taping the top of that pocket down. That way when I ran it through my machine, it wouldn't catch. So I'm going to go ahead and layer it on top of another 3x4 card. And because my pockets in my pocket page were kind of not the 3x4 size they said, which sometimes you'll get pockets that are kind of too tight. So I ended up having to cut my edges off. So you'll see later that my pocket is flipping open as I work with it, but had I not had to cut those edges, it would have just stayed still like a pocket, and I'll just glue it later. So here I am going to, I am gluing down my pattern paper now that I have my journaling on there. I usually like to mark lightly on my pattern paper with a pencil. That way I know where my journaling needs to go before I run it in through my typewriter. So right now, what I am thinking about is that I had an extra photo for this spread that I didn't put in to begin with. So I'm fiddling around with the extra photo, seeing if maybe I want to place it on top of the 4x6 card, which it could work. But for me, I just felt that it threw the whole balance off of my page, because I had all of these 3x4 sections and one 4x6, and it just made me, I just liked it better without that extra photo. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll tuck it in behind the photo that I do use. That way, you know, I'll have to leave a note to my children to check the pockets. There might be more photos in the album than there appears. So this is what I was talking about, having to trim my edges because my pockets were just not fitting, which is kind of a little frustrating, but you know, I persevered, right? So as you can see, the back side of this page has not been done yet. I haven't gotten around to that one. Soon though, because I'm currently filling in gaps right now so I can soldier on. So one of the things I was considering when making this pocket was how I was going to reseal that pocket on the sides, and I ended up just using glue. And then later I'm going to go ahead and add a staple in there just for looks. So one of the reasons I put the 3x4 journaling card behind it is because I ended up cutting my photo down a little bit more than the 3x4 size. And I really liked having that extra color pop out behind it, because it kind of added a little bit more pink to my layout, and I didn't feel like I had enough. I had a lot of blue. So even just this small addition of color makes a big difference. So I'm first working on getting all my, pardon me, let me start over. I always like to get my journaling and my cards laid out and the titles, such as that August title on that right side. And then I start embellishing, because I have to make sure I have room for the big things or the more permanent things, such as the journaling or the typing, because those I can't move around as easily as I can the embellishment. So I always build my pages in that order. So we got this package of new die cuts from Pink Fresh Studio, and I love them. I'm always happy when I see a package of them in my kits. This one has lots of options. They also have some gold foil, which I didn't even use in this page, but on my traditional layout that goes behind it, I did, and it's a really pretty gold foil. So here I am, just trying to decide what is going to go where. I know in that 4x6 pocket, I keep fiddling with some smaller elements, but I'm going to find out later that I really need something bigger to kind of balance it out. So I am currently looking through the die cuts to see if there's any other bigger die cuts that have sentiments on it that I can use, since I only really have small type on there so far. You can see I chose that So Happy We're Here die cut to go help fill up some space on that 4x6 card. And I've also ended up, I think at this point, I'm going to put a die cut on top of my journaling with the goal of eventually stamping on it, because I did want to use some of those super cool Heidi Swap stamps that came in the Project Life kit this month. Here I'm just adhering the rest of my embellishments that I've already committed to being on there. I'm also going to anchor some of them down with some of my tiny attacher. Normally, I would run things more frequently through my sewing machine, but that is currently out of order at the moment. So my tiny attacher is now my best friend, which was already my pretty good friend before. So now it's like my favorite one. So I'm looking for a stamp that is going to fit nicely inside that little die cut. And luckily, there's quite a few options on the stamp set. So it wasn't hard to find something that would go in there. It also has a month and date and date stamps, so you could like match a January with whatever date. So that's going to make this stamp set pretty versatile and something you can use again and again. So I'm pretty minimal with my stamping, so I generally only buy small little stamping pads. This one happens to be Kelly Perky, and it's just a black. It's like one of the only colors I stamp in. But it works for me, and it allows me to add a little bit of extra detail to my pages. So there, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the smaller sentiment onto that label, and then I'm going to let it dry. And I'm not only just stamping a phrase onto it, the set comes with some emoji faces. So I thought that since this was a page in my little girls album, it would be fun to go ahead and use that emoji stamp. It's a smiley face is the one I chose because, you know, it's a happy story about my daughter and her tea party with her daddy and her puppy. So that is why I chose that to go there. So at this point, I am going to go ahead and start putting my things in my pockets that I'm absolutely sure I'm finished with. I like to tuck things away, and then it's just one more thing checked off my list. So really the only spaces I have left that I'm considering are number one on this little picture of my daughter climbing the rope that's in the pocket. And I feel like it's kind of an ugly background to that photo because it's in the at the gymnastics building, and that's a big roll, one of those roll up big doors. They're giant and ugly. So I thought it would make a good spot to put an embellishment, as well as it brings your eyes straight to my daughter on that particular space. And I'm going to go ahead and choose one of these really fun, they're acetate hearts from Pink Fresh Studio. And because it's in a pocket, I'm going to go ahead and remove the bottom adhesive circle that's on there because it's going to be too bulky. There's already a second one, so 2 would absolutely be too much for my pocket. It'll start making the picture bend in funky places. So my final touch here is to use one of my Avery index tabs, and I'm going to go place that up here at the top next to that top right 4x6 card. And then I am going to glue, or actually I've already done it, is I've glued a little phrase die cut that came in that mix that I was showing you earlier. So thanks for stopping by and watching me as I put together these pages. I look forward to seeing what you all make with your kits. Have a great day.